thanks for coming out. It looks like a great turnout tonight. I just want to warm up the crowd because we said we would start at 7:30, so I thought I would do some trivia here. And okay, let's start with the easiest ones first. Who won the Battle of Lexington Concord?
The good guys.
Okay. I would have accepted the colonials, the provincials, or even the Americans.
The British went out to do what they wanted to, and then they got back to Boston. So they won, right? They sure succeeded on Lexington Green.
Well,
I don't know.
He's killing you guys. All right. What war did this battle start? The American Revolution. Why were the British marching out of Boston to Lexington and Concord that day?
To get the weapons.
To seize arms. And if Samuel Adams and John Hancock were around, arrest them. But the real reason was to seize the arms. It's like the original search for weapons of mass destruction, because the colonials and soldiers and cannons. Okay. Why didn't Paul Revere and Lynnfield's Midnight Rider Mountain Hare cry out, "The British are coming"? They were all British citizens, right? So they were probably yelling, "The regulars are out," or the redcoats are out. Okay. Who was the head of the Lexington militia on Lexington Green?
John Parker.
Did I hear that right? Captain John Parker. What side fired the first shot on Lexington Green? No one knows. Why wasn't this the shot heard around the world?
It's the start of the war.
Because the shot heard around the world was from a Emerson poem, and he was talking about the Concord Bridge. So really, the shot heard around the world was at Concord. And that's really when the Americans shot on the King's troops, and there's no going back from there probably. They probably could have gone back after that slaughter. Okay. Why didn't Paul Revere ride on to Concord? He was captured, yes. Who did ride on to Concord? Dr. Samuel Prescott. Why was Dr. Prescott out so late?
Girlfriend. No.
That's what we call, yeah. He was courting Miss Mulligan in Lexington.
He was what?
What?
He was courting.
Yeah.
Miss Mulligan.
I didn't know that.
What town lost the most men other than Lexington?
Lynnfield.
On Thursday or?
It was Danvers. They lost 7, and that included PVD at the time. So anyway, Paul Osmo will be telling us more about that. Anyway, we're going to change it up a little bit tonight because of the rain. We didn't want to be outside making speeches, but we will still do the Patriot Vigil walk across to the cemetery and light lanterns at the graves. So now I'm going to bring up Alan, and he will announce a couple speakers. Make it official. All right.
249 years ago tonight, Martin Herrick rode to Gowling's Tavern just down Front Street and informed Captain Nathaniel Bancroft and his company of militia that the British regulars were on the march to Lexington and Taunton. Just hours later, the American Revolution began, and Lynnfield was involved from the very first moment. With just 1 year to go before the 250th anniversary of those events, we gather to honor and remember our forebears from this town who put their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors on the line. We begin with words from our veterans agent, Bruce Siegel. Take a seat.
a lot of familiar faces out there. What a great turnout. Nice to see everybody. So I'll be brief. I said good evening, everyone. As Alan said, my name is Bruce Siegel. I'm the Lynnfield Director of Veteran Services. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'd like to thank the Lynnfield Historical Society for hosting this important event and inviting me to speak. On behalf of the town of Lynnfield and all of its veterans, I'm proud to be here tonight, not only representing them, but more importantly, recognizing and honoring those patriotic and brave Minutemen from Lynnfield who fought in the American Revolutionary War. When I think of Lynnfield's connection to the war, I automatically think of Daniel Townsend. One of the most enjoyable and humbling experiences I've had the privilege of doing was placing the Gold Star Street sign and commemorative plaque on the corner of Townsend Road in his honor. But as you will learn tonight, there were many others from Lynn and Lynnfield who fought and died with Daniel Townsend. When the Minutemen marched out of Lynnfield, they did not make it to Lexington and Concord. Instead, they only made it to the town of Arlington for the Battle of Monogamy. Close your eyes tonight and listen to everybody. Imagine what it was like. Tonight we show appreciation for the Lynnfield residents who fought and died for all that we hold dear. Without those sacrifices, we would not be enjoying the quality of life that many of us take for granted. Freedom is not free. Many good men and women and their families who fought in all of America's wars paid a high price for that freedom. We must never forget. Enjoy the program, everybody, and thanks again for allowing me to participate.
Next, we have Thomas Bogart, Commander of the Lynnfield American Legion. Just a moment.
Well, now we have the experience. Speaker. So if you don't mind, I'm going to make a slight adjustment on the mic stand. Thank you, Alan. My remarks will be brief as well, but I will be happy to hear that. But, I'm Tom Bogart. I'm commander of the American Legion Post 131. We are grateful to be part of Lynnfield Historical Society's Patriot Vigil. We honor the brave Lynnfield Minutemen of the North Parish Militia who gathered here almost 250 years ago before they marched off to battle in Lexington and then on to Monogamy in the very first battles of the American Revolution. We are here to pay tribute to those who fought and to those who made the ultimate sacrifice and never returned home to their families on that fateful day. We especially honor the memory of Daniel Townsend, who lies in rest on the hallowed grounds of our burial grounds across the street, among many other brave patriot soldiers who fought for our independence. We would ask all those present here today to remember the old adage, as Bruce put it, freedom is not free. Freedom is not free. We would do well to always remember that. In closing, American Legion Post 131 would like to take this opportunity to thank the Lynnfield Historical Society for inviting us, and we thank you for the cooperative relationship that has existed between us for many, many years. I just want to close by saying, God bless Lynnfield, Massachusetts. God bless America.
We've changed things up a little bit. We're going to be doing the vigil at the end of the talking, and we'll be led by the Fife and Drummer. At that time, as the town crier reads the names of those 18 men buried in the cemetery who marched on April 19th, a lantern will be lit at each grave. Flags honoring Bancroft's Women Militia Company have already been placed at each one. There are 15 members of Bancroft's company buried there, plus Martin Herrick, who rode to Lynnfield with the word of the British advance. John Meade of Lynnfield, who was a member of Newhall's Lynn Minute Company, and John Hawks, also of Lynnfield, who marched with Reading that day. 23 members of Bancroft's company are buried elsewhere, 2 just around the corner at the West Burial Ground, 8 down in South Lynnfield, 1 in Lynn, 2 in Arlington, where they fell, and the rest are scattered throughout New England. Town Crier will eventually read those names as well. In addition, 45 Lynnfieldites served in the Revolution after April 19th. Their names are in the printed program. This country boasts 50 states comprised of nearly 20,000 cities and towns, each with its own story and origin. In 1775, still a year from the Declaration of Independence, a very small number of towns and villages, about 32 in all, went to war against the world's most powerful army. Their actions that spring morning and afternoon sparked a flame that resulted in a new nation. Lynnfield was one of those select few that answered the call on the opening day of the American Revolution. On April 19, 1775, average citizens of the small village of Lynn Inn, still not a separate town for 7 more years, marched from their homes and their families to battle in a way to immortality. There was Nathaniel Bancroft, the captain, 54 years old, and living comfortably at his home on what is now Summer Street. Joseph Gowing owned the tavern that served as the hub and heart of the village. It was also the designated meeting place for the militia. Daniel Townsend would not survive the day. Before the war broke out, he was not particularly active in local affairs, but that did not keep him from joining fellow townspeople in facing the British troops. His brother Thomas and friends brought his body back to town to his grieving wife. She was dead of a broken heart 6 months later, another casualty of war. Also losing their lives that day were Townsend's next-door neighbor, Thomas Hadley, as well as William Flint. Benjamin Adams was the son of Reverend Benjamin Adams. The father was not fully committed to conflict with the crown, but his reservations did not prevent him from presiding over Townsend's funeral. Benjamin, the son, he had no such qualms. He beat the drum to call the militia members to the task at hand. Martin Herrick, a resident of nearby Reading, particularly of North Reading at the time, and later Lynnfield, rode his panting horse in the early dawn hours to Gowing's Tavern to bring the latest word to Bancroft's little company directly from Paul Revere. Some of the company left their marks on the world. At least parts of their stories are recorded and live on. Still others return to their quiet lives. Despite their indispensable roles on that fateful day, nothing but their names and tombstones remain. In all, 38 men, average, hard-working people, belonged to the local militia, and all 38 put their lives on the line that day. Joining their neighbors from all over eastern Massachusetts, these otherwise ordinary citizens of Lynnfield set off down the road to a new nation and a new type of nation. In hindsight, it is very easy to think that American victory was always assured, but in 1775, it must have seemed like an impossible task. Only the most optimistic of those impromptu soldiers could have imagined the result. There was no country yet backing them up, no army, and very little in the way of supplies. Yet, they went anyway. Just who were these people, and what did they face on that long ago April 19th? There were farmers, shoemakers, innkeepers, and others who stayed together as a militia company only for a very short time. But the mark that they and their neighbors made on the future United States of America is inestimable. For this nation to be born, someone had to start. And those guys in that cemetery did just that. We will now have our Procession. Do we have a Fife and Drum? Anybody who would like to brave the weather, we're going to march over to the cemetery.
Marched from here on April 19, 1775. So 249 years ago tonight, it was Berry Land that we're all walking. It was a big hubbub, and everybody was gathering the stores of gunpowder from the meeting house.
There you are.
And meeting at Gowing's Tavern and marching off to Anatomy. So what we're going to do here today is I'm going to read off the names, and then I'll ring the bell for each name. So first we have the young drummer, Benjamin Adams, 16-year-old drummer. Does it say Benjamin Adams on that sign right there? Benjamin Adams. Next we have drummer James Bancroft. Captain Nathaniel Bancroft. John Berry. James Brown. Joseph Gowing. John Hart. Sarro Hart. Thaddeus Perry. Second Lieutenant Nathaniel Sherman. Daniel Townsend. John Upton. Jesse Wellman. Jonathan Wellman. Thomas Wellman. Martin Herrick. John Meade. And John Hawks.
recognize that was you. It's raining, I can't see it.
$1,200. Well, it was very small. It was, yeah. So it was
Okay, good enough.
If you want to get your name to the free raffle, you still have time to do that. I want to thank our Revolution 250 committee, chaired by Alan Foulds, for all their hard work organizing this event. as our plans are much bigger for the actual 250th anniversary. I want to thank distinguished veterans, Representatives Bruce Siegel and Tom Bogart, Daniel Townsend, descendants, Joanne Hughes, her children Daniel Townsend, Hughes, and Jacqueline Murphy. And we also have a descendant of the Wellmans tonight. So we have Anthony Wellman, who came all the way from, I believe, Connecticut. All our Lincoln holders who came to practice last night. Our hospitality hosts, Diane Foulds and Kathy Slater, organized by our second Vice President, Janet Everson. Please like us and follow us on Facebook. It helps with the algorithm to boost our posts on people's feeds, especially when you hit the like button and you make comments on our posts. Sign up for our email list. This year is Lynnfield Historical Society's 70th anniversary. Please consider joining the society. It is only $15 a year, and you will be invited to the end of the year pie social as well as our potluck dinner at the start of each session. So tonight's guest speaker, is local historian Paul Hoagman. Paul is a longtime member of the Arlington Billerica Historical Societies and is an expert on the battle of the Jason Russell House where Lynnfield and Danvers men were killed. Please welcome tonight's speaker, Paul Hoagman.
Just to let you know, Ron and I have touched base quite a while ago, and he really got me into Lynnfield. I've been here for a couple of different sessions, and it's always a pleasure. I do history talks, and I do it basically for BATV in Tewksbury and the Tewksbury Senior Center. I have to apologize tonight. I'm afraid I'm a little bit under the weather, and I'd like to give you at least an outline of my full talk, if that's okay. This has never happened to me before. And it's not happened for many years, so I apologize for that. Tonight we're going to talk about Lynnfield, April 18th and 19th, and some of the events that have happened in that period of time. British troops occupied Boston in 1775. They were under the command of General Thomas Gage. In the mid-1760s, Parliament began levying taxes on the colonies, and it was to pay for the French and Indian War debt. The Stamp Act of 1765 certainly was the biggest thing that triggered the beginning of the Revolutionary War. The representatives of the colonists could represent the colony in Parliament, but they could not vote on anything. And that kind of sparked the colonies were starting to hang effigies of the Stamp Act people, and also, like I said, was really the main cause. Now the colonists did not mind getting taxed, and even the people in England were taxed a little. But when they told them that they would have no say in Parliament, that kind of did it. The Stamp Act itself was on newspapers, books, court documents, commercial papers, land deeds, almanacs, and yes, dice and playing cards. The George Grenville was actually the person in England that ordered the taxation of the colonies. I would like to show you, first of all, what that stamp looked like. I hope you can all see it. Can you see it?
Yes.
I tried to get it, I tried to get it as big as I could, and these are the biggest ones that I give presentations with. But anyway, that in fact was the stamp itself. And that is Mr. George Grenville that gave us that lovely tax. Now things began to escalate in the colonies at this particular point. The Boston Massacre of March 5th, 1770 was one of the biggest things in Boston that hit the townspeople. When a British soldier killed 5 townspeople in Boston, the British soldier was proved not guilty by John Hancock, who stepped forward to actually represent him in the courts. Snowballs with rocks were thrown at him to provoke him to do what he did. He was found not guilty by the court. 5 colonists were actually killed in that particular event. Samuel Gray, Crispus Attucks, Patrick Carr, Samuel Melvin, and Christopher Monk. Also, 3 other people were wounded. Towns in the colonies started to activate Minutemen companies or militia companies. And that was, of course, to protect their town from the British soldiers. April 18th, 1775. The Sons of Liberty knew something big was going to happen, but they didn't know where and when. Men like Sam Adams, John Hancock, Joseph Warren, John Adams, Thomas Chase, Henry Wells, and others made up the Patriots, if you would, that would be at the Green Dragon Tavern in Boston. The second floor of the Green Dragon Tavern is where they would hold their secret meetings. Dr. Joseph Warren's office in Boston was a central information place. Dr. Warren summoned Paul Revere and sent him to Robert Newman's house, the sexton of the Old North Church. And it was to hang 2 lanterns in the steeple of the Old North Church. 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. And that meant how were the British going to make their move to conquer, because they at least knew that, but didn't have the details in full. General Gage, commander of the British troops in Boston, sent Lieutenant Colonel Smith with 700 British troops to march the Concord. Paul Revere went home, put on his riding boots, took a cape, and actually he had no weapons on that particular run. He met Thomas Richardson and Joshua Bentley, who were now would be the ones that would row Paul Revere in the Boston Harbor, past the HMS Somerset, a British warship, and they muffled the oars with kind of like a canvas type covering. It was heavy, but when you put the oars in the water, it didn't make noise, so it wouldn't alert the British guards on the ship. Revere set off, like I said, on a very fine horse, carrying the alarm. It should also be noted, and a lot of this you people know, the early books had that he actually was calling out, "Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye." And the books say, "The British are coming." Well, now certainly, if the people in the town heard the British were coming, most of them, 98%, were British themselves. They wouldn't understand what he meant. But when he said, "The regulars are out," regulars meaning British soldiers. And now we have Dr. Martin Herrick, which I bet all of you know about. I'm not telling you anything different, but we have to pay tribute to him. 28 years old from Lynn, carrying the alarm to Stoneham, Reading, and of course Lynn. He also was, I believe, directed by Paul Revere for his run. Dr. Simon Tufts of Medford was one of the people that he was very close to, believe it or not. He was apprenticed to Dr. Simon Tufts, and he fought in the Battle of Lexington, and after the battle assisted in caring for the wounded. He enlisted next in the Army, and from which he transferred to the Naval Division as surgeon, and twice, if you can believe it, was captured by the British. At one time, he was a school teacher right here. He died here in 1820 and is buried in the Lynnfield Old Burial Ground. Martin Herrick was buried with Masonic honors in the Masonic organization. That's one of the highest awarded honors you can get. The Lynnfield Minutemen had 5 companies on April 8, 1775. Captain Nathaniel Bancroft, Captain William Barrington, Captain Era Newhall, Captain Rufus Mansfield, and Captain David Parker. Daniel Townsend and Timothy Monroe were in Captain Nathaniel Bancroft's company. The Lynnfield Minutemen assembled at Gowan's Tavern in town before marching on to Monotony. Now, it's true I lived in Arlington for many years, but you gotta know this about monogamy. Monogamy was a part of Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1635 and was a little village and incorporated as monogamy. It is an Algonquin Indian name meaning high overlooking hill. And if anybody's driven through Arlington, there are a lot of hills there. A young lad, Benjamin Adams, 16 years old, of Captain Nathaniel Bancroft, Lynnfield Company, would beat assembly on his drum so that the Minutemen would gather at Gowan's Tavern. And then he stayed with them all day long until the early part of the evening. Benjamin was married to Lois Orne, O-R-N-E, and had 4 children. He began his apprentice of medicine and practice at Amherst, New Hampshire, and then returned to Lynnfield. He served Lynnfield as clerk of the parish court from 1793 to 1804. Benjamin died January 16th in 1811. He is buried across the way in the old cemetery. The Lynnfield Minutemen marched in monogamy to cut off the retreating British soldiers coming back from Concord. There were 38 minute companies from 12 neighboring towns in monogamy, and they were represented all at the Jason Russell House. This is the Jason Russell House. This way would be west, which is Concord, so the British soldiers are marching from Concord past the Jason Russell House, and it faces Boston. And that's where your Minutemen did most of their fighting. Jason Russell was 59 years old and hampered by a bad leg. And when the British started to enter near his farmhouse here, he ran for the front door when the fighting began. As he was going in, 2 shots rang out and he died on his doorstep. Later on, they found 11 bayonet marks on his body from where the British soldiers bayoneted him as they entered the house. Later, like I said, they found those 11 bayonet marks. When the British soldiers were coming down the field behind Daniel Townsend and Timothy Monroe, Townsend fired at them and remarked, "There, I got another one down." Monroe looked around and saw that they were completely hemmed in by the British regulars. And the flankers were going to come around the back of the house, so the main body of the Lynnfield and other companies were going to be attacked from the back. They ran into the house, the Jason Russell house. This is Daniel Townsend and Timothy Monroe. And they looked for a cellar to escape, but couldn't find any. Musket fire was all around them. Townsend again leaped through the end of Townsend, I'm sorry, I should explain. The end of Townsend leaped through the end window of the Jason Russell house, and he carried the sash and everything with him, and unfortunately died instantly. Monroe followed him and ran for his life. He passed by both parties of the British soldiers that were firing at him. The last British soldier exclaimed, "Damn that Yankee, let him go." When he got home, Timothy Monroe had one musket ball through his leg and had a total of around 32 musket ball holes throughout almost his entire clothing and hat, but he made it through. Even the buttons on his waistcoat were knocked off, and how that ever happened, because I'm sure British soldiers were not close, but how every single button just happened to be knocked off. There are stories about that, and there are local stories here in Lynnfield about that one. Timothy Monroe was 72 years old, and Daniel Townsend was 36 years old when they died. The Jason Russell House picture, which I just showed you, the British soldiers sent flankers out to come behind the house, as I told you. The flankers were grenadiers, 6 feet tall, wearing high bearskin hats, and they always led the company of British on the march. They were like the Marines of the British. I apologize, this is one of the ones I couldn't get a larger picture. But this shows Lord Percy with the British passing by the Jason Russell House and getting ready to go and take the back of the house. There were a lot of lives lost at the Jason Russell House. I apologize over here, that might be in the
It's
way.
okay.
It's all right.
It's fine.
What we have is a breakdown of the losses because they're not sure it's the place that most lives were lost. But take a look at this. It's broken out into Minutemen at the top, killed, wounded, and missing. And then it comes Minutemen lost at the Jason Russell House, and Minutemen lost in the entire day. Then we have British regulars. How many were lost at Monotony? How many were lost the total day? And I'm going to read those off so you will know. And lastly, we just have casualties in total at Monotony. And the Minutemen lost at Monotony were 25, wounded was 11, and missing was 5. the British had 73 losses in monogamy, 80 wounded from the time they started going through the little village till they got to the Cambridge line, and no missing. Then we come down to the regulars for the total day, like I said, 73. But look at the wounded, 174, and then 26 missing. And last is taking all of that, you can sum it up by saying, Minutemen killed 25 Minutemen and 40 British. Wounded 11 Minutemen, 80 British. A total of 91 wounded and 65 killed in that little village alone. This is the obelisk, and the obelisk is at the one street away from the Jason Russell House on the grounds of the library. And it really captures people that died at monogamy. In Arlington, the names are on a plaque, and it says April 19th, served their country. And that's the plaque right there. The officers in the British Regular made their written reports to General Gage of the casualties in monogamy, and each of the Minutemen companies knew their men very well. They were neighbors and everything, but also knew total men that were in their companies and in their individual towns reported their particular statistic of killed, wounded, and lost. And that's how we got the numbers that I showed you. This obelisk also has Jason Russell and his wife. He has a few listings of British soldiers, just in numbers that they list here. But the two from Lynnfield, I always get Lynn Village and Lynn. The two people that you have is William Flint and Thomas Hadley is on that plaque. Daniel I'm sorry, like I said, that I'm not feeling a lot better. I took some of these off. We just went across the way, but I just wanted to show and pay tribute to Daniel Townsend, and you just saw his gravesite over there, which Ron was pointing out. On October 19, 1781, the British, under General Charles Lord Cornwallis, surrounded to American and French troops under George Washington at Yorktown, Virginia. And to really end the war, on September 3rd, 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed. The Continental Congress approved the final treaty to the end of the Revolutionary War. That's what I cut my talk to down. I just wish I could have given you another maybe 20 minutes or so. But you may be interested that the North Parish was reactivated by proclamation of the Lynnfield Board of Selectmen on March 10, 1975, the bicentennial year. In Minuteman manner, 25 men answered the call of North Parish Lynnfield militia and were uniformed and drilled to reenact the April 19th march to Monotony. The company presented itself to the town at the bicentennial ball on April 18th, 1975. 16 women worked long, hard hours to make the uniforms and have these men ready for the reenactment. I happen to be captain of monogamy in the bicentennial years, and I can tell you that you reenactors, I'm sure, enjoy going to many towns and seeing many things. But if some of you were around for the bicentennial, you can't imagine how many parades you would do in a weekend, but all the wonderful things that happened, like the Queen coming over and many, many other things. Tonight, let me not forget the brave men and women from Lynnfield that helped make this great nation what it is today. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna let Paul go, he's got a long ride home, I'm not feeling well, but I do want him to pull a raffle winner for us tonight.
Whoever gets it can pay me later.
Julie Hickey Martino. Everybody down for refreshments. We got plenty of stuff here. So the refreshments are in the knockbacks. You want to leave people back there if you want. Or if you need to leave, you can go ahead.
I'm gonna stay here for a minute.